Apple just released a brand new processor, so we game. Today's video is sponsored by Heroes of the Dark. Do you like playing games on your phone? Well, Heroes of the Dark might be the perfect game for you because it's a unique blend of the strategy and RPG genres where you can enjoy your favorite in-game features like collecting and strategically deploying your heroes in battle, while also talking over and dominating the entire world with your guildmates. Heroes of the Dark has multiple different gameplay elements that you can work with, whether it is the RPG, whether it is the strategy game. There's also PvP, as well as PvE, depending on what you want to do at the given time that you're able to play games on your phone. And with decent textures, great particle effects that are happening, the game actually looks really good on my iPhone. If you're into the RPG elements, well, there's three different factions that are fighting for world domination. You got the vampires, the werewolves, and the humans, and to survive, you must recruit, equip, and train your heroes from each faction. And for only those who can master the combined might will prevail in those battles. Playing it for the first time prior to doing this ad spot, I actually was impressed by how much depth and complexity that's in this game. The multiple different elements that you have to balance while you're trying to progress in the campaign, made for an experience that I'm sure that you could play for hours on end. And it's available in tons of places for you to play, like iOS, Android, and PC. If you're interested in Heroes of the Dark, now's the perfect time to download it. You can either click the link in the video description or scan this QR code that's on the screen, and you'll benefit from the great offer, which is a free vampire Countess Magla in order for you to start your journey in Tenebris. So be sure to check them out at the link in the video description, or again, scan the QR code that's on the screen. Big thanks to Heroes of the Dark for sponsoring today's video. So Apple at their latest WWDC event talked a lot about gaming. They want you to think that they are the ultimate in video game. We've got things like their Metal X upscaling that's coming out. That's going to be a competitor to NVIDIA's DLSS and AMD's FSR. They have the Metal 3 engine, which is going to finally unlock AAA gaming and things like No Man's Sky and Resident Evil Village. But Apple wants you to think that they're good at gaming. So that's why we went out and we got an M2 MacBook Pro to see just how good the improvements are right now. We don't have the software that Apple's talking about, but maybe the hardware is still good enough, because the M2 chip that's actually in this MacBook Pro has several enhancements over the previous generation M1 chip. It's got 4 billion more transistors to be at 20 total. It has 2 more cores on the GPU, which is an improvement of 25%. The memory speed is up to 100 gigabytes per second, which is 31.5 more than it was on the M1. And the CPU, it's clocked higher. 0.3 gigahertz higher. Wow! That's a lot! So the M2 chip has a lot of advantages going for it. This is sort of a look at how Apple's next generation of chips performs at gaming. So if you're looking at getting something like the M2 MacBook Air, this might actually help you to decide whether or not you're going to be able to play your video games on it. So that's enough words. Games. So there are a couple of different options when it comes to gaming on Mac that I've covered in our previous Mac gaming videos. You can either have it installed natively, as you can see here in Steam. There is an indicator to allow you to look through all of the games that are supported on Apple's operating system. Epic Games also lets you know whether or not the operating system supports it, or you can use emulation programs like Crossover that will allow you to install Windows versions of stuff using Wine in order to run those games. Now, not all of the games run flawlessly. You have to check their list in order to make sure that happens. But so we should dive weenus deep into this to see what gaming on the Apple's actually like. Start off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. An Apple natively supported game should run 1200p, medium, 60 hertz, TAA turned on. It's the latest Tomb Raider game. Came out in 2019? I don't remember. It's been a while. 30 FPS. That's fine. It's not anything to write home about, but you can play this game. Now, the MacBook Pro that we have only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. We did not opt for the 16 or 24 because that pushed the shipping date out until July. So for the sake of actually getting the video done as soon as the device came out, we had to settle with 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gig SSD on the inside. That is a fingernail.
I thought I saw a fingernail on you.
This game doesn't look terrible. I'm going to suspect that we're gonna end up averaging 30 FPS, which is more than playable. You can get a good run of Shadow of the Tomb Raider on your M2. Yeah, if you hate good experiences, but also consider the fact that this is, at least the MacBook Air, is gonna cost you $1199. And that's more on the, like, you're not getting a great dedicated graphics card anyways. And so a AAA game running at reasonable frame rate without a dedicated GPU. It's not as bad as people who hate Apple would make you think. We had a couple huge dips there to like, I know, as I was saying, this isn't gonna be that bad. It dipped quite heavily, but this isn't running with a graphics card. It's at 1200p above 1080p. I played Team Fortress 2 in a cave with a box of scraps when I was in high school. I don't abide by the notion that everything has to be as fast as possible. Some people are broke. Some people need a MacBook Air for school because they have to work in the Mac operating system and still may want to play games. Okay, the average FPS looks to have been 29 coming out of the GPU. Playable. The minimum FPS was 4, but it's a Mac, leave it alone. Now, it's no secret that Fortnite can run on a potato. Heck, it even used to run on iPhone, so I hope that the M2 processor can actually handle Fortnite.
Is it not on iPhone anymore?
Because of the whole lawsuit thing. You don't know about the Epic Games versus Apple lawsuit that's happening?
Currently?
It hasn't stopped. Yeah, they don't want to pay Apple the 30% cut that they take on the iOS store. So they redirected it, and then Apple cut them off because they were like, you can't do this. So Epic Games sued them, but then Apple won in that court ruling, and Epic Games has to pay them a fine, but Epic Games is appealing it. But in the meantime, since they pulled that stunt, it has not been available on iPhone except for GeForce Now, and then remember recently Xbox Cloud Game, because you can't do it on the iPhone natively anymore. And you can see it's the hashtag free Fortnite is still there. You cannot play it on a Mac and then still play with friends. Like, who am I going to add? Epic Games? Nobody, because I can't play it. We're at 2560 by 1600 at high settings. So with nobody around, we're running at 40 to 50 FPS. This is playable. We got a hashtag free Fortnite. So everybody type down below in the comments, hashtag free Fortnite. We need to be able to play it on our M2 Macs while we're at college. What are you gonna do? You can't play with anybody. You have to play with yourself. Apple, play with yourself. It's their new slogan.
Ha!
All right, I think we had this problem last time where it crashed when I tried to exit it.
It's playable.
On the Mac Studio. It's playable. I think I might have to restart the Mac. Yeah, I won't even command tab. So that's enough for the Apple supported games that we have. They run fine. I think if we start getting things like Resident Evil Village, that should start to run fine as well. For the ones that already have native support, it does okay. I would like to see more games get support. I think Valve has set an exceptional precedent with the Steam Deck and just putting in the effort of getting games converted to Linux software. It has been amazing to see games, 3,000 games now playable on the Steam Deck. Could Apple pull something off? I don't think they necessarily have the gaming background that Valve does, but I mean, they have the money. They could hire people who could do this. I think the tricky difference though is that this is obviously running on regular PC hardware, x86 CPU or regular RDNA 2 GPU, whereas the new M2 chip is based on ARM. That creates complications, but I refuse to believe a company who has more disposable cash than any other company in the world couldn't pay people enough to get it done. So with that being said, let's try God of War. You need at least Windows 10? I have at least Windows 10. I have Mac OS 12.4.
Like the cheese.
The Mac OS cheese?
Monterey Jack.
Oh. Okay, let's try the latest game. Whoa, hold up. Need at least Windows 10. How does it work on PlayStation then? Let's try Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which launched for Steam and the Steam Deck on the exact same day just a couple weeks ago. Work on Mac, please. It's running the install script. No! It's encountered a compatibility problem. Fine, Apple, if you won't let me play Final Fantasy VII, Steam will. Valve will. Kyler, you know what the problem is? We don't have any RGB on the MacBook. This is what we're missing. An RGB vertical mouse. Oh, we gotta show the RGB. It's working. Vertical mouse time. I have never used a vertical mouse, but what we do know is that CD Projekt Red's other game, The Witcher 3, actually does run in this compatibility software for the Mac. I wonder if Cyberpunk also does. And now that we have RGB, it legally has to respond positively. Oh, failed to create an OpenGL context. This is why we need Metal 3.
So would Metal 3 solve an issue like that?
So Metal 3 is just really Apple's continuation of supporting gaming, right? Like that's their next step in their acceleration of game support on their hardware. So whether or not that means that Apple's gonna natively support more games when Metal 3 comes out, they've already said it will, because we're getting Resident Evil Village. As far as more broader compatibility, I don't know. It does seem like Apple really just wants to support their Apple Arcade on their iPhone. Maybe they just don't see that there's enough financial benefit for them supporting games on their devices, especially because they're not gonna get a cut of Steam stuff on Mac. They're not gonna get a cut of Epic Game Store on Mac. So where's the financial incentive for them to bring gamers over to their stuff? They would have to create their own game store, essentially, for them to financially feel responsible for it. That's my suspicion here. I can't confirm it, obviously, but Apple wants money. They want it more than everybody else, which is why they're like Smaug sitting on a gold pile, not willing to give it up for anything. They could make it happen. They could do something that's in the best interest of the general population, but if it doesn't make them an insane amount of money and it can't be vertically integrated, then it's not the Apple way. Yeah, it dies on anti-cheat. No maidens for us. Okay, let's try the game that Apple was super excited to talk about, Resident Evil Village, the non-native Apple version. Do you have anything for us? No. Golly. Well, it's clear with the launch of M2 that there is no better Windows support for video games on this, which again, obviously is a software issue. When it comes to playing the games that are supported for what's supposed to be Apple's entry-level laptop, it's not terrible.
Maybe you just need to blow on it.
Should you just blow me?
Will it work now?
No, it's not working at all. It's not the Apple supported Village. So what they're communicating is that they will get around to software support eventually, and it's for one game. It's also No Man's Sky. Don't forget about No Man's Sky. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have to wait until Apple decides to update Metal 3, come out with more support for games natively, and maybe the crossover application will make some changes that will allow actual Windows games to run better. But as it stands now, like, the games that are supported run fine. The games that aren't supported still aren't supported. This is a software issue. It's not a hardware issue. The hardware is powerful enough. They made a better chip. The benchmarks are showing it's better, but you can't use it. Cloud gaming is the way of the future. "45 FPS? Oh, we're looking pretty good right now. Good morning, Night City! So what are we running at? We're at 1440 by 900, medium settings. What, no ray tracing? That's baloney. We're going ray tracing ultra. Run that benchmark. Oh, look at that, we're running at 45 FPS. That's how you play video games on your MacBook, kids. Cloud streaming.